You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, fellow Americans, friends and neighbors. Great to see you today. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on this Tuesday, October 8, coming to you live from our nation's capital, which is still shut down. I think John Boehner likes it shut down because he doesn't have to work so hard. At any rate, there seems no end in sight. Not until maybe next week, although it might not even end then when the debt ceiling deadline comes up. And Republicans now have managed to merge the government shutdown with the deadline over the debt ceiling. That's really when we get into Armageddon. Meanwhile, John Boehner really stepped in it over the weekend. Talked a little bit about this yesterday, more today, where he insisted there were not enough votes in the House to pass a clean budget resolution. But several people have pointed out that all 200 Democrats have said in writing they will vote for it, and 22 Republicans have said in writing they will vote for it. You only need 218 votes for a majority in the House. You do the math. To me, that's 222 votes right there. There would be more. Either John Boehner can't count or he is lying through his teeth. You decide. Supreme Court is back in business. They will take up an issue today that could prove to be worse than Citizens United doing away with all limits for campaign contributions. And yesterday at the White House, Jay Carney told me that he is proud of his president for wanting to change the name of Washington's football team. That's the new crusade at the White House. We got all that covered right here this morning on the Bill Press Show, so hang around with us. And don't forget, you join in the conversation at any time on a Tuesday morning, October 8th.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids
you.
how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
And online, this is the Bill Press Show.
Day number 8 now of the shutdown, and John Boehner still digging in his heels. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Tuesday, October 8th. You ready to go? Yeah, ready or not, here we go with this Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show. Washington, D.C. is where you'll find us. Capitol Hill, right in the middle of the in action on Capitol Hill. We got this end of Pennsylvania covered. We got the other end of Pennsylvania covered, just 5 metro stops away from the White House. We'll tell you what's going on, what the latest is, and all the jockeying for position here, and the complete Republican intransigence on the Hill. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it all and what impact it is having on you and your community, your family. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. That's how you join the conversation at any time, or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On a Tuesday morning with lots to talk about. Let's find out. We better call the roll here. Make sure everybody showed up this morning. Peter Ogburn.
Yes, indeed.
Here.
Good morning.
Daniel Henning.
Good morning.
All right. Alicia Cruz. Oh, what? She's there. Show up. Oh, there she is.
We're 3 for 3.
All right, 3 for 3. And Cyprian Balding. Present. Huh? Present. Telling you, my man doesn't need a microphone.
No. Who needs to give him a microphone?
That's right. Our videographer.
What, are you taking attendance? I don't understand what that little bit was.
I'm taking attendance.
Yeah. You used to be a teacher.
Right, exactly. Call the roll. That's what you do. Isn't that how you start off every day?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what Jay Carney does at the briefings. Calls a roll. Find out who's there.
So can I have an excuse note?
Then you get your gold star. Right.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Right.
Everything good? Any baseball yesterday?
Lots of
I hear there was some baseball, yeah.
I hear there was too. I hear the Dodgers maybe wrapped it up. Yep. My Dodgers.
Your Dodgers now, right? Yeah.
With Vin Scully, you get so excited.
And missed. The Dodgers have won the National League Division Series, and the Braves have done what they've done all year long, strike out.
That's the most excited I've heard him all year.
Right. His voice actually went up at one point there. Right.
He's like an 85-year-old man. I'll cut him a little bit of slack.
I will not cut him a slack. He's a sports announcer.
He's
when you're a
sports
home
announcer.
team, no, absolutely not.
Hang on just a second. Hang on. They just won a playoff series. They didn't win the World Series.
Still, it's a big deal to win.
All right, well,
I hate it when announcers flip out because their team won a game.
That's the whole point of being a good sports announcer.
Why I want to be a sports announcer in my next life. All right, so let's have the contrast, right? Well, the Pirates, we thought were going to put it away last night. They didn't. The Cardinals won, but the Pirates did get on board. They killed the chances of a no-hitter for the Cardinals pitcher. What's his name again?
Michael Wacha.
Waka. Pedro Alvarez up to bat in the 8th inning.
Here's the 3-1 to Alvarez. Swinging a fly ball to right center field. Clear the deck. Cannonball coming. Goodbye no-hitter. The ball. Blast one. A solo bomb to get the Bucks to within 1. And it's 2-1.
Roger.
Not exactly.
There they go. So the Pirates are up 2-1, right?
Yep.
The Red Sox. Oh, the Red Sox didn't put it away last night either.
They did not.
But so they're still up 2-1, right?
Yep.
And in the final game, the A's are up 2-1 over the
Tigers.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Getting close. I'm in. Might get to the World Series by December.
Dodgers look strong, by the way. I mean, to put away the Braves the way that they did.
I know. Yeah.
That's a big deal because the Braves. I mean, they were a phenomenal team. I know your heart is with the Dodgers today.
No, but my heart's with the Nats, but the Nats are gone. So now they're with the Dodgers.
Thanks in part to the Braves.
But also,
I am not sorry to see the Braves go.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, Nats fans are thrilled to see
after what the Braves did to the Nats.
Oh, yeah.
No, right.
The fact that the Braves and the Reds are gone, Nats fans are happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see the Pirates win too. After the Cardinals last year too.
Yeah, screw the Cardinals.
Right.
Screw the Cardinals.
We don't forget.
That's right. That's right. Remember our enemies.
We got it. All right. On a Tuesday, we have our lineup of our regular Tuesday guests: Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, Igor Volsky from Think Progress, and then we'll be joined a little bit later. Olivier Knox here is a friend of Bill from Yahoo News, and Congressman Chris Van Hollen, the number 3 ranking Democrat and the number 4, I guess, and the top Democrat on the House Budget Committee will be here in studio with us. He'll sort this whole debt ceiling government shutdown thing out. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Other headlines making news on this Tuesday. A big weekend for George Clooney and Sandra Bullock's new movie at the box office. The sci-fi thriller Gravity took in $55.6 million. That is an October debut weekend record. Beats Paranormal Activity 3 took in $52.6 million 2 years ago. According to Entertainment Weekly, it's also the best ever debut for both Clooney and Bullock. Previously, Clooney's best debut was $43 million for Batman and Robin in 1997, and Bullock's best was at $39 million just this past summer for The Heat.
That's amazing that movie did so well.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the other thing I was reading is that a lot of people obviously went to go see it, but this is the first movie since Avatar a couple of years ago that people are saying this movie was meant to be seen in 3D. If you go see it on a plain old screen, you're not going to get...
Do you have the option?
You do have the option to see it on just a plain movie screen. But everyone's saying, like, if you're going to see it, pay the extra money to go see it in 3D or 3D IMAX, and that's one of the reasons it's making so much money.
Yeah,
because it costs more to go see it in 3D.
But not everyone can handle 3D. 3D does make some people sick. So
but I mean, that's where a lot of this money is coming from.
I love how there are astrophysicists out there, Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of them, who are complaining about the mistakes in the movie. It is a fiction movie, and they're complaining about the mistakes in space.
Remember Lincoln.
The fact that Sandra Bullock's hair does not fly around because there's no gravity, they're complaining about that.
And I thought that the Lincoln zero gravity scenes in Steven Spielberg were very, very realistic.
Right.
So.
Washington Capitals owner Ted Leonsis danced around a question during a speech yesterday on whether he was approached to purchase the Washington Post when it was up for sale, but the hockey team owner did say had he bought it, he would have made the Post admit it has a problem and is not important anymore. According to Politico, he compared it to holding an intervention with a drug addict, where the first thing to do is admit they have a problem. This one, being the core print model, just doesn't work.
Of course he was asked to buy the Washington Post. He owns the Capitals and the Wizards.
He owns everything in town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got the money to buy it.
And quite the day for some British soccer fans yesterday. Prince William invited a large group of people to play soccer on the grounds of Buckingham Palace to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the UK Football Association, of which he is president. He noted in a speech that since they were basically playing in his grandmother's backyard, anyone who broke a window had to answer to the Queen of England.
That's a good thing of him to do. He's bringing a common touch to the...
Absolutely.
If possible, to the royal family. Yeah. Right. Well, the latest on the shutdown here in Washington is that it's more and more apparent how ridiculous this whole thing is, how meaningless the whole thing is, because it was, remember, all engineered to stop the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and it has nothing to do with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, which continues to be in business, which in fact is doing more business and signing up more people than ever before now because of the availability of the health exchanges. So the totally meaningless, unnecessary shutdown just rolls on, where even Republicans are now trying to figure out, why did we do this? Remind me again why we did this and how are we going to get out of it? There is no exit strategy. And all of that was made all the more apparent by the latest from John Boehner, the most feckless, hapless, the least effective speaker ever in the history of the House of Representatives. John Boehner, who, remember, Sunday on This Week, so what everybody has said, right, is, look, the House has passed, the Senate has passed its concurrent resolution, its continuing resolution, its CR, as they call it. Okay, in the House, maybe you don't have enough Republicans to pass it, a clean CR, but if you put it up in the full House, you'd have enough Democrats and enough Republicans to pass it and get that damn thing over with. Just call a vote and see what happens. Boehner, Sunday, now we go into Sunday, remember, talking with George Stephanopoulos on This Week, he insisted that's not the case.
There are not the votes in the House to pass a clean CR.
Not the votes to pass it. Well, President Obama yesterday said, I'm not sure about that.
My very strong suspicion is that there are enough votes there. And the reason that Speaker Boehner hasn't called a vote on it is because
he doesn't apparently want to see the government shutdown end at the moment.
This was President Obama, who went over to FEMA yesterday to thank the FEMA workers who came back from their furlough to be on duty in case they were needed for Hurricane Katrina. And the president said, correctly, okay, there's only one way to find out who's right, who's wrong.
The truth of the matter is there are enough Republican and Democratic votes in the House of Representatives right now to end the shutdown immediately with no partisan strings attached. The House should hold that vote today. If Republicans and Speaker Boehner are saying there are not enough votes, then they should prove it.
Yep.
Let the bill go to the floor and let's see what happens.
Yep. Call a vote. Call a vote. Now, I think it's pretty clear. Here's what, there was a lot of talk about this yesterday, more and more clear, that the votes are there, and there's only one reason John Boehner will not call such a vote. Only one reason he will not let the entire House vote, and that is because he knows damn well it would pass. Let's do the math. There are 435 members of the House. You need 218 to get a bill passed in the House. 200 Democrats, members of the House. 200 Democrats have signed a letter saying they will vote for the clean CR that came out of the Senate, which, remember, we've made this point a couple of days ago, the last couple of days rather, is this bill that came from the Senate, or this CR that came from the Senate, is a budget that is basically the same budget number that Paul Ryan pushed through the House version of the budget last year. This is not the budget the Democrats want. This is way, way down. Over $100 billion already cut in spending. So this is a bare bones Republican budget. What the Republicans ought to do is take that budget and run and declare victory, except they're just not smart enough to do that. And they're too mean. They're so mean that they really want people to be hurting rather than declare victory. So at any rate, let's get back to the math. Now, we got 200 Democrats. Huffington Post, Jennifer Bendry from Huffington Post reported yesterday, she's talked to 22 Republicans who have given her a written statement. They were all posted on Huffington Post. Every one of them, 22, a written statement saying they will vote for the clean CR that came out of the Senate. Now, I don't know where I came from. If you add 222, you're at 222.
Yeah.
That's 4 more than you need to get it passed in the House. Plus, there are all kinds of Republicans privately who have said they'll vote for it, but they just won't publicly admit it. You get the vote, they will vote for it once they know it's going to pass. So the truth of it is, either John Boehner can't count, or he's a big, fat liar. You tell me which it is. 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. John Boehner, dumb or a liar? But either one, it makes the point again. This whole shutdown is due to the pride and the arrogance of one man who is worried about one job, his own. That's what it all boils down to. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about Boehner, liar or just plain ass dumb, here on the Tuesday morning of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees. major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, you got it now, 25 minutes after the hour. On Tuesday morning, John Boehner says, hey, I can't call a vote in the House on getting rid of the shutdown because there aren't enough votes. Yeah? Count them up, baby. Got 200 Democrats and 22 Republicans so far. That's more than you need, chicken. That's what he's really afraid of. He's afraid it would pass, and he'd be embarrassed because that the entire House would reject him, basically. You know what? I got to tell you, we like our loyal friends. Nobody more loyal than Ike down in Charleston. He stayed with us through and through on his TuneIn app. Hey, Ike, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Well, he thinks the American people are dumb and stupid. That's what it comes down to.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He's the gatekeeper to the House. Here's the deal. Put the thing on the floor and have a blind vote. Don't record the names on the board. Let everybody vote the way they want to vote, okay? And I guarantee you it would pass. But let me tell you something. Profiles and political courage, this is not. He's worried about losing. Sure. He's worried about losing his speakership.
Yep.
And you know what? That's the problem with all these politicians. If you stop thinking about your own butt and start thinking about the American people out here, you might be able to satisfy us and have a better rating than 10% and get the business of the American people done instead of acting like a bunch of petulant children. This is real life to us, and you know darn well if you let us go over the cliff, you're going to crash not only our economy and hurt millions of people here, but you're going to crash the world economy. This is no way to play the game, and don't tell me about President Obama not negotiating, because by God, that's the deal of the House. The House has to get their act in order and quit screwing around and quit wasting time and get on the stick, grow some kahunas, boner, and pass the bill.
Boom.
Boom. Ike is
Ike
right.
drops the hammer.
You know what? I want to wrap that message, and I want to send it right to John Boehner. He has breakfast every morning right down the street at Pete's Diner, sitting at the counter with one of his aides. Go in there. I'd love to go down there and just play that bite from Ike, right, for
Boom.
John Boehner. Here's your breakfast, Boehner. Swallow this, baby. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ike. Marcia on Free Speech TV in, Bastrop County, Texas. Hey, Marcia.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I like what Ike said. I like Ike. But
I like Ike.
two quick things, and then I have something to say. It's only 217 members that are required because there's 432 right now, and it was Hurricane Karen, not Hurricane Katrina. But what I really want to say is something I've been wanting to say a long time. They're trying to get young people to not sign up by saying they're just going to be supporting us old people. Well, that's wrong. Yeah, we may have, a varicose vein or something every now and then, but we're not jumping out of airplanes with a little piece of fabric keeping us from splattering our behinds all over the ground.
All right, Marcia. Hey, call us again, Marcia. I love hearing from you. Yeah, absolutely. Good friend, new friend.
This
Marcia
is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Tuesday morning, October 8th. It is The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital. And on Tuesday, lucky for us, we get to get the real skinny from Arthur Delaney, a Huffington Post, in studio with us early on a Tuesday morning. Hello, Arthur. You were going to bring the dog in, I thought, this morning.
Yeah, Arthur.
My dog would tear this place to pieces.
More than you do?
He takes after his owner.
All right, good to see you.
Good to be here.
We talked last week about the fact that already there were some, Bob Schieffer said it the other day, real consequences for real people to the shutdown. And here we are now, day 8, meaning even worse consequences for more people, right?
There has been a lot of confusion, I think, more than anything else. But it's been causing craziness because people aren't sure which programs are supposed to shut down. At the federal level, there's guidance from the Obama administration. And then at the state level, there's this whole extra layer of confusion. And I had a story last week. There were the WIC program, which serves women
we talked
and
about
infants.
that
Yeah.
last week, right?
So last week, several states were shutting down their WIC programs when the shutdown started. And this was going to affect thousands of struggling moms. And then at the end of the week, all these states said, never mind. We got more money from the federal government. And why they didn't know that they would have that money in advance, or why they couldn't say that they would have it, is just for bureaucratic reasons.
Jay Carney started our briefing yesterday by pointing out the president had an update on the shutdown yesterday morning, in which, among other things, he learned that in at least 6 states, on top of all the kids who've already been tossed out of Head Start because of the sequester, in at least 6 states, they've had another whack at Head Start, and even more kids have been thrown out of Head Start because of the shutdown.
Right. And so
this is another impact.
And that
right?
affects the whole family.
Of course. Yeah.
And my colleague Sam Stein was talking to some of the moms and dads who were relying on Head Start and just bawling when they learned that their kids would be kicked out. But yesterday, some philanthropists donated $10 million to undo that. So the confusion is what really reigns. It seems like your program's shutting down, and then for a bureaucratic reason or a charitable reason, it's starting back up. It happened in Arizona. They were going to shut down their welfare program, temporary assistance for needy families. And just yesterday, Jan Brewer said, no, don't shut it down. Why they went through that charade, knowing that they didn't really need to shut it down, is unclear.
All right, today, October the 8th, so that means next Thursday, we run into the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Right. And Republicans are already saying that we're willing to not raise the debt ceiling, go into default unless we still haven't gotten the end of what we want, right? Which is killing Obamacare, or at least delaying it for a year. If we hit the debt ceiling, what happens?
Well, it depends who you ask. You talk to economists, Wall Street people, and the Obama administration. It's chaos, potentially rivaling the Great Depression. It would be worse even than the financial crisis in 2008 that started the Great Recession. But there are Republicans in Congress who at the same time feel like they get all this leverage from this because Democrats are so scared of it. They're saying it wouldn't be a big deal because there's still revenue coming in, so the government can just pay the interest it owes on Treasury bonds. But then, of course, the 50 million people on Social Security, I guess, can take a hike.
Well, I was going to get to that because you wrote yesterday on Huffington Post, Social Security checks will stop when the debt ceiling is reached. So Social Security checks still going out now under the shutdown.
Yeah.
But that ends? Medicare checks end?
Well,
Medicaid?
Presumably, that's what happened. We've never done a debt default before, but that's one thing Obama and his administration has been willing to say, that you're not going to get Social Security. Which makes sense. I mean, that's what they say happens in a debt ceiling breach. But that's pretty scary. That's 50 million seniors lighting up the switchboard at Congress. It's hard to imagine that could really be a sustainable situation, even for intransigent Republicans.
Well, it's hard to imagine, for me, that there are some people who got elected to Congress, which doesn't mean they have half a brain in their head, who would argue that that it doesn't matter. So what, right? We can shut down the government, and what they're talking about, and that it won't have that kind of an impact. They ignore what they're hearing from all the heads of all the Wall Street institutions, Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. They all say this, as you pointed out. This is chaos, and yet these Yahoo Tea Party people say no, it won't be so bad after all. For one thing, I think it will not affect them personally because they're still getting paid $175,000 a year. And a lot of these people just live in a bubble, don't they? I mean, they
don't ignore it because Wall Street says it. They ignore it because Obama also says it.
True.
So
Good
then
point.
Discounted out of hands. No reason to believe it. If he's saying it can't be true. That's the mindset we're dealing with.
So the phrase that I heard yesterday for the first time is, well, we'll shut it down. I mean, we'll default, but we'll pay some of our bills. We'll prioritize. It's prioritization. So therefore, they could not accuse us of not paying all of our bills, just some of our bills, and we can survive that way.
They would pay the interest owed on the government bonds, and that would prevent us from, breaching the trust of Wall Street or whatever.
Or then
they'll prioritize,
or the Chinese, who are the ones who buy the bonds.
They'll prioritize military pay and things like that. It'll be sort of like the shutdown on a different scale, where you've got bill after bill that singles out one positive thing that's been in the news after another.
Right, exactly.
But if you dig down into this, it's not like the money comes in and goes out in these perfectly proportionate sums every day. The interest payments might come in large lumps a few times a year. It's not a daily thing. It doesn't work that way, in other words.
Well, here's my question to you. Just understand this. So this idea of prioritization, and it would be okay if we just pay some of our bills and not the others. Let's say somebody's checking up on your credit rating, right? And they find out that you paid your mortgage, but you didn't pay your car loan, right? And I don't know, you didn't pay the latest on your student loan, and you didn't pay the bill that you racked up at Macy's or something. I mean,
how did you know?
Yeah, right. I mean, and you go to them and say, "Hey, I didn't default. I paid my mortgage, right?" How do you think that would fly with the bank?
Only you won't have to be that sneaky to see what's happening after the 17th. It'll just be in the news.
Right.
You won't have to check Obama's credit report.
I mean, that whole theory to me is nonsense, right? You either pay your bills or you don't.
I think the idea that it would have a dramatic effect on credit on the markets is a little bit more intuitive than the idea that you can prioritize pay and not have that result in mayhem.
Do you believe the Republicans now are trying, bill by bill by bill? Yesterday the latest was FEMA.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, okay, FEMA's good. Yeah, we'll refund FEMA. And then they said that, what was the first one that they, remember, they wanted to put money back into NIH or something?
Funding whatever has been in the front page of the newspaper.
I know. They were going to open up the memorials, right?
Right.
Yeah,
they were going to open the memorials.
Right.
They're going to fund WIC, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
Never mind that in your budgets past, you're always cutting funding for this specific program since it was in the news and looking like you're sticking up for it scores points against the president. They're going to pay workers. So if you pay federal workers who haven't been working for 2 weeks, an entire pay period, that's the equivalent of what, a 3% raise for them? You've stopped these people from getting raises for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's the complete opposite of what you actually want, Republicans. And so that's the one thing that Democrats were, well, if you're going to do that, sure. And that actually might happen. A raise, effectively, for federal workers.
Well, but I guess my question is, the White House has said, they've decided, and Democrats in Congress, we are not going to piecemeal fund the government. You either reopen it or you don't. Right, you either leave it shut down or you reopen it.
Yes, except they are taking that furlough back pay one. All the Democrats in the House are for that. Senate Democrats say they're probably gonna move it.
And so the impact of that is what we're doing, in effect, is we are paying federal workers to not to work.
No, that's exactly what it is.
Right,
and since it's effectively giving them a 3% raise. The opposite of what Republicans have wanted.
How is that?
If you work less for the same pay, you got a raise. This is the labor movement for 100 years advocated for shorter hours and same pay, and that's a way of effectively giving yourself a raise. So that's what we're talking about for 800,000.
I can say this: I talked to a federal employee yesterday who would rather be working. Has a lot of work to do, cannot report. You're not allowed to go in. If you can't go in, and they'll send you away, right? You cannot.
Yeah.
volunteer.
It's against the law.
It's against the law to go into work. And this federal employee would rather be at a job but cannot go in. So he went surfing yesterday instead, and he got paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, if I were a federal worker, I'd do similarly.
Happens to be my son. What could I say? But we shouldn't be paying him to go surfing.
I guess not.
Arthur Jalady here from Huffington Post. I'd love to hear from you as to the impact of this shutdown on your family, your community, hurting a lot of people out there. 866-55-PRESS. You know the toll-free number.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The Bill Press Show brought to you in part today by LifeLock Ultimate. Lots of stories about identity theft. This is like one of the strangest I've ever heard. Out of Puerto Rico, authorities down there say 21 prison inmates, even behind bars, they're stealing people's identity. Progress joining us in the next hour, as well as Tim Mack, congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Arthur, I want to get to one of the big issues of the day that came up at the briefing yesterday. The president on last Friday, gave an interview with Associated Press where, among other things, like sort of the non-important issues like Syria or the shutdown or the debt ceiling, he was asked about the name of the Washington football team, which shall go unnamed. And he said if he were the owner, he would think about maybe changing the name, which prompted my question to Jay Carney yesterday at the White House briefing. Jay, on a totally different issue, but one that the president raised, does he have any plans to attend any Redskins games?
Not that I'm aware of. I wouldn't.
Would he go to a game?
I think the president, asked by our own Julie Pace about this, addressed this very thoughtfully over the weekend. And as a longtime Redskins fan, a native-born Washingtonian, I really appreciated what he had to say.
Has he talked to Dan Snyder or have any plans to call him?
I don't believe he has, but I don't have any other information on that subject to impart today. Thanks.
Jay, that means that you would want to see the name change?
Yeah, I said I was proud of my president.
Yeah.
On this issue.
That's Jim Acosta from CNN following up as to whether or not you believe the name should be changed. So what's going to happen?
Well,
this
he won't
has stirred this up. The President of the United States?
Dan Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, gives money to Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
So you know Obama's not going to go sit in the booth with him.
I don't know that he's been invited. But I think, I'm going to have to double check, I think Jay Carney has been in Dan Snyder's box.
Oh, really?
Oh, sounds likely. Sounds like he's a big fan.
He always gets little media celebrities around him there.
Now,
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen? Are they going to cave?
Dan Snyder isn't thinking like himself. He says he'll never change the name. He didn't realize if they changed the name and got new uniforms and everything, that's just money.
Tons of money.
So it's the stupidity is winning the battle against greed in his head.
But today, the NFL...
Which rarely happens for him, by the way. Like, he is notorious for being one of the... Like, it will take advantage of every fan at every opportunity.
Today, the NFL leadership is meeting with a group of Native Americans led by the Oneida tribe out of New York to discuss this name change. The NFL.
And good on them. The Redskins have hired PR mercenary Lanny Davis to sort of flack for them on
the
this.
attorney, Lanny Davis.
Yeah, he's hired gun. I think that's fair. Anyway, we're trying to see if we can get a Kickstarter going to pay Lanny Davis to recant and flack for us. We want to change the name to Washington Department of Football. And
I like that name.
And the nickname for that is the Doffs.
Is this a whole? Are you announcing a whole program?
We're working on this at Huffington Post DC. We're not sure exactly the vehicle for this project, but it's in development.
Phil, you figure the details out later, I'm sure.
It sounds like the vehicle for this project is the Bill Press Show.
I think we need to raise something like $40,000 to pay off, so Lanny can get out of his contract with the Doffs.
Well, you know what? All right, Peter, let's try to we'll get Lanny Davis in, and Arthur Delaney will make the deal right here on the show.
Fantastic.
And then we'll get Dan Snyder in the next day. Yeah. All right, we'll do it. All right, Arthur, you got a deal.
Hail to the Doffs.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing down. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
If it's Tuesday, it must be Igor Volsky from Think Progress coming up in the next half hour. And then we'll be joined by the congressional correspondent, for the Washington Examiner, Tim Mack, here in studio as well. Peter.
By the way, you guys, not me, but you guys, you and Dan both set off a little bit of a firebomb when you criticized Vin Scully, legendary broadcaster. On Twitter, people are already upset.
I'm just saying he's got to have a little more juice, a little more life.
Jim says, what you heard is classic Vin Scully. No need to get out of control. He's the best. And Astasia says, Vin Scully is a treasure. He's the best baseball announcer of all time. Started with the Brooklyn Dodgers and came out to L.A. when they moved.
No, I did. I don't know. I've always loved Vin Scully. As a Dodger fan, he was a hero in Los Angeles.
Who knew, though?
I'm just saying among sportscasters,
it's a more reserved delivery.
Absolutely. He ought to be talking about politics.
This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, fellow Americans, friends and neighbors. Great to see you today. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on this Tuesday, October 8, coming to you live from our nation's capital, which is still shut down. I think John Boehner likes it shut down because he doesn't have to work so hard. At any rate, there seems no end in sight. Not until maybe next week, although it might not even end then when the debt ceiling deadline comes up. And Republicans now have managed to merge the government shutdown with the deadline over the debt ceiling. That's really when we get into Armageddon. Meanwhile, John Boehner really stepped in it over the weekend. Talked a little bit about this yesterday, more today, where he insisted there were not enough votes in the House to pass a clean budget resolution. But several people have pointed out that all 200 Democrats have said in writing they will vote for it, and 22 Republicans have said in writing they will vote for it. You only need 218 votes for a majority in the House. You do the math. To me, that's 222 votes right there. There would be more. Either John Boehner can't count or he is lying through his teeth. You decide. Supreme Court is back in business. They will take up an issue today that could prove to be worse than Citizens United doing away with all limits for campaign contributions. And yesterday at the White House, Jay Carney told me that he is proud of his president for wanting to change the name of Washington's football team. That's the new crusade at the White House. We got all that covered right here this morning on the Bill Press Show, so hang around with us. And don't forget, you join in the conversation at any time on a Tuesday morning, October 8th.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
John Boehner can't count. He says the votes aren't there. President Obama says, prove it. Call for a vote. Let's find out who's right, who's wrong. Good morning, everybody. Yep, we're still in the middle of it. Day number 8 of the shutdown right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Not just here, around the entire country. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live coast to coast. First, this radio show on your local progressive talk radio station. And special bonus, the radio show carried on Free Speech TV. If you got the Dish Network or DirecTV, you can find us on your satellite dish. Or you can also stream the show on your computer. Just go to Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Great to see you today. What a treat. We got the whole team here, Peter Ogburn and Dan Henning.
Hey.
With Alicia Cruz on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam. And then Igor Volsky. It's Tuesday. He's got to be here. Can't get through a Tuesday without Igor Volsky.
Good morning. I'm
managing editor of Think Progress.
I'm celebrating a little week-iversary. I don't know if you know, but it's the first week-iversary of Obamacare enrollment. So just 23 more weeks to go now.
Oh, the first, wow.
Yeah,
that was it? Just started last
Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right.
Happy Obamacare, everyone.
8.6 million people went to the site, the federal site.
The federal site. They had some trouble getting through.
The good news is if you went there a week ago, you're just now actually getting through to where you can order it.
That's right. That's right. Come on back.
Yeah, it was. There were some glitches, right?
Some glitches, but people are getting coverage. And that's the good news. We spoke at Think Progress to a Rand Paul fan from Alabama. He's a big libertarian Republican who hates Obama, but loves Obamacare and signed up in Alabama and is now covered. And stories like that around the country, it's slowly happening, but people have 6 months.
Now, speaking of the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare and the health exchanges opening up as part of this rollout, the Secretary, HHS, Kathleen Sebelius, went last night on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, Jon Stewart, I didn't realize that he is really into this issue with some very strong feelings about it. And he challenged her. Here's that little exchange.
But the basic idea is what you are saying to the American people is some of you may face a penalty for the greater good, is what the suggestion is.
Well, it also is we don't get to pick and choose when you get sick. The rules of the country are you go through the doors of an emergency room, you get treated, somebody else picks up that bill. Somebody else treats you, and unfortunately, you're more likely to live sicker and die younger without insurance.
Exactly, which is why I don't understand the idea of staying with a market-based solution for a problem where people can't be smart consumers. There are too many externalities in healthcare that I honestly don't understand why businesses wouldn't jump at the chance to decouple health insurance from their responsibility, and why the government wouldn't jump at the chance to create a single-payer system that simplifies this whole gobbledygook and creates the program that I think America deserves. I don't get it.
He's a single-payer guy.
Who would have thought? Jon Stewart,
I
yes.
mean, I'm a single-payer guy. I've always been. But I mean, there's Jon Stewart. And I still say I think it was a big mistake, at least for the president, not to put single-payer on the table.
The remarkable thing to me is they took single-payer off the table and they led with the public option. Now, the commitment from the president and Democrats a little shaky, but that was the opening bid.
I would have taken the public option as a backup. But then that disappeared.
You listen to the debate, though, it disappeared. But the attacks that you had when the public option was part of the goodies that could end up in the bill, they're the same exact attacks you hear today. So my contention has always been put these things on the table because it doesn't matter what's actually in the bill. The attack is always going to be it's government controlled, government centered, government takeover, even if things like the public option and single payer aren't anywhere near the actual law.
Nope, I agree. I think it was
miles away.
It's a mistake to cave on that. And by the way, Congressman Jim McDermott, who was here Friday, I believe it was, in the studio, pointed out that as part of the Affordable Care Act, there is a rider where states have the option of going to, at the state level, a single payer system if they want to. And Washington State is way ahead on that possibility. I think there's one other state, maybe Vermont. with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I think Vermont is the other state. They have a lot of options. They can actually also do a public option type thing. They can do different things with their Medicaid program. So lots of flexibility. And I think the good thing is, Bill, if it works on the state level, we can maybe talk about expanding it a bit, because there's a lot of concerns with a single payer. I mean, a single payer might be great during an Obama administration. What would it be like during the administration of, Jeb Bush or Scott Walker? If you have just the government payer, it's easy there to make cutbacks, so on and so forth. So, let's see how it works. I think there's complications, there's cost complications, but if you try it in one area and it works, we can have a national debate and see if we can expand it.
All right, we've got Igor Volsky here in studio with us. I think we'll eventually get to a single-payer system. Let's find out how bad the shutdown is, and how about the debt ceiling? If we default, will it even be worse? We'll get right into that. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Quick check about the headlines making news on this Tuesday. The Los Angeles Dodgers head to the National League Championship Series after beating the Atlanta Braves in Game 4 last night, thanks to Juan Uribe's 2-run homer in the 8th inning to win the game 4-3. The Boston Red Sox, who were up 2-0, looking to shut out last night, could not put Tampa Bay away. Jose Lobaton hit a solo home runner in the bottom of the 9th, 2 outs under the giant fish tank in center field, which of course upsets the PETA folks that saved the team from elimination with a 5-4 win, forcing Game 4. St. Louis also staying alive, forcing a Game 5 by beating the Pittsburgh Pirates, thanks to top-notch pitching from Michael Wacha, who is just a few outs away from a potential no-hitter. And the Oakland Athletics defeated the Detroit Tigers 6-3. They lead that series 2-1.
So by this weekend, we'll be in the playoffs, right?
We're in the playoffs.
We're in the playoffs.
We're in the
playoffs.
Well, we're in the next round or whatever.
Well, that'll be the championship series,
All right,
yes, which then determine the World Series contenders.
I do love playoff baseball. I mean, it's so great. And yesterday you have game after game after game.
Yeah.
A couple days ago there were
No, it's
4
great.
playoff games in one day. Just staple me to the couch, man. The best.
A new Pew Research Center study points out the obvious. The media is already talking about the 2016 presidential race a lot. The upcoming contest has received more coverage so far this year than either the 2012 and 28 campaigns got during comparable time frames.
Really?
Wow.
In newspapers.
I thought we were doing better.
Especially not at all.
We're doing better.
You're just blocking it out.
Yeah, that might be it.
We're doing better.
Listen to this. In newspapers, the coverage has been double over the 2012 campaign. In the same time period, the people getting the most write-ups are Hillary Clinton, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and Chris Christie.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a good job here of keeping the 2016 kind of down, but not everybody.
Yeah, I don't think progress. I don't think we're really doing much of that either.
Good for you.
And a huge tip for a bartender in Springfield, Oregon. A regular customer of Aurora Kephardt's at Conway Restaurant and Lounge asked her to pick 2 of his unplayed Keno lottery tickets and told her she could keep anything that hit on those tickets. Well, according to USA Today, the first ticket won $5. Then the second one won $17,500. She immediately tried to give it back to the customer, but he demanded that she sign it right away and take the money. So she took the $17,000 tip, donated a bunch of it to charity.
Whoa. Good for her, but I mean, I don't know. Peter, give it to charity?
Yeah,
No.
I mean,
I have a charity.
if you're waiting on tables,
it depends on the
you're
charity.
waiting on tables, exactly.
She gave a bunch of it to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and then bought herself a new couch.
clearly she is a much better person than I am. I mean, if you're waiting on tables, you would imagine that money could go a long way to help you out. But okay, charity, cool, good for her.
So Igor Volsky, the Washington Post, out with a new poll this morning showing that 70% of the American people say the shutdown is harmful. It's a bad idea, and Republicans should end it. I thought this was a party that John Boehner goes around saying, we're listening to the people. We have to listen to the people.
Yeah,
we have to do what the people want.
Well, you'll remember he gave a speech when he won the majority in 2011 that listening to the people who brought us here was the title of the speech, and Cantor was saying the same message, and here they're only listening to the small group of 30, 40 Tea Party House members in whose districts this is playing very, very well, which is, of course, part of the problem why we're here in the first place.
What do we know? What do we see now for the shutdown? It's we're a week into it.
This is week 2 here now of the shutdown. I thought on Sunday, when Boehner went on This Week, a real change in tone. Before, reports of maybe he'd be willing to hold a clean vote, maybe he'd be pushed into it. You know, he has to kind of do this posturing to conservatives of I did all I could. They would negotiate. And at the 11th hour, people were thinking maybe he'd slip in a clean continuing resolution. Maybe that would still happen with the debt ceiling. But he was defiant and said that if the president refuses to negotiate on the debt limit, then we're on the path, he said, on the path towards default. It's very scary.
Why isn't there, my fear about this shutdown is it's like the sequester. All the talk ahead of time about how bad it's going to be, and then it hits, and somehow life goes on. Nobody's talking about the sequester anymore, but it's still in place. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of public outrage about the shutdown.
Yeah, it's the sense that, is this now the new normal? And the articles you're reading today say, the shutdown was pretty bad, particularly for the, 500,000 federal employees. Of course, now it's lower because the Pentagon workers came back who were furloughed. It's bad for them. It's bad for D.C., but for the rest of America. But they say it's not nearly as bad as a default. So you already see this idea of a shutdown. Yeah. We can stomach a shutdown, maybe 1.5 points off the GDP, no big deal. But a default, it's about 3.4% off the GDP over the course of a year. And consequences we can't even predict because it's never really happened.
By the way, just to put the shutdown in perspective, I was emailing with a friend of mine yesterday at one of the agencies here in town, complaining about the lack of response that I got from this agency when I was trying to get some information to write a column. And he pointed out, he said, you might remember there is a furlough. He today is the only person in an office of normally 160 people.
Wow.
And, you multiply that in department after department after department around this town.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of important stuff that's not getting done.
There's a lot. And the GOP argument is that the GOP is lowering the GDP.
Right.
Boom. Is that, look, we're doing this piece by piece. We're doing clean little CRs for every. I mean, they reopened. If the Senate were to pass these little piecemeal CRs, it's about 6% of the government that they've opened. I mean, this is.
They tried to.
They tried to, yes. Yeah. They tried to. This piecemeal pick and choose winners. They criticize Obama for picking winners and losers in the economy. Here, they are opening the parts of the government that they like, really.
Now, you've called these people the truthers, right? Back to the debt ceiling. Those who say we can default on our bills as a nation, and it won't matter.
Bill, it's remarkable. Since 2010, we've seen the rise of these debt ceiling truthers. And these are the people first really led, believe it or not, by Michelle Bachmann, who in November of 2010, her PAC, remember she was a big star in those days, put out an ad urging people to pressure their representatives to spend less and cut spending across the board so that the nation never has to raise the debt ceiling again. And that was the rallying cry from conservatives between the end of 2010, November 2010, and January 2011. They said, people like Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and Michelle Bachmann and Michael Steele at the time were arguing, guys, we never have to raise the debt ceiling if we just cut spending across the board. Now, that was unrealistic, and so in January of 2011, these guys came up with a new scheme, and that's what you're hearing about today, this idea of prioritizing payments, that if we do default on October 17th, that it's no big deal because we'll still have money coming in, and we can just divert that money into things that matter. So we'll pay off the interest on the debt, we'll pay Social Security, and we'll prioritize that way so we can go for longer without raising the ceiling. And they argue not much will happen. Now, the problem is you talk to the Treasury and you talk to business and you talk to Wall Street, and they say it's completely unworkable. This idea of prioritizing is, in fact, default, because you'll be defaulting on 30 to 40% of your federal obligations. But in the space of Boehner saying that he's not negotiating, of Obama, I think, correctly saying, I'm not going to do this with a gun held to my head, there's new room for these debt ceiling truthers to kind of spout this crazy idea that default's no big deal. And yesterday you had a congressman argue that really default is just like paying your bills at home, that sometimes when your credit cards come due, you pay the Visa and the MasterCard, but maybe not the American Express. And it's just like that, he said. It's no big deal.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love that phrase. The
Debt ceiling
truthers. Igor Volsky is the one who came up with it. He's here in studio with us. We'll continue our conversation. Your questions, your comments, always welcome. Join in at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Tim Mack from Washington Examiner will be here in the next half hour. And don't forget Congressman Chris Van Hollen in our third hour together this morning. Igor Volsky is here now from managing editor of Think Progress, thinkprogress.org. You want to know everything you need to know about Washington, D.C. or issues in general. He's the guy. Peter.
Yeah, quick comment. There are a lot of ways to reach out and touch the Bill Press Show. On Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Also at BillPressShow.com. We take your emails. Jay Johnson wrote in, says, the reason John Boehner doesn't bring the vote to the floor is because the Koch brothers don't want to vote on ending the shutdown. Which is sort of ties together the whole Koch brothers setup here.
As the New York Times reported over the weekend, the big money behind the shutdown, Americans for Progress, or for Prosperity rather, and some other freedom
funders.
fighters.
It's the funding partners or founding partners. It's this really big umbrella group that's funding a lot of these Koch brother organizations. Certainly Heritage Action is making the push. It's really astounding that Koch is the guys who elected all of these members from these conservative districts who are now kind of holding firm and holding, I don't know if they're holding Boehner hostage because Boehner can just hold a vote, but certainly pressuring Boehner to do this entire dance around all these issues. It's big money. Ironically, is the reason we're kind of in this mess.
All right, so I've got a radical notion today. Why don't we just hold a vote in the House on the clean resolution?
That's an idea, Bill.
You know what? You know why Boehner won't do it, because it would pass.
That's right.
No doubt about it. The math is there.
Yeah, 217, 220 maybe. Numbers are there.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody has added it up except John Boehner.
Send him a calculator, folks.
Either he can't count or he's a great big fat liar. All right, Igor, well, let's get to work. Back at Think Progress. Thanks for coming in today. All right, see you next Tuesday. Don't forget it's thinkprogress.org. How about all those Pentagon employees are coming back? Tim Mack will tell us all about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it. 33 minutes after the hour now. It's Tuesday morning, October 8th. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., covering the issues of the day. Dominated, of course, by the shutdown, now moving into and merging with the debate over defaulting on our obligations by refusing to, by not raising the debt ceiling. A lot of this, of course, affects the Pentagon and our military. Tim Mack covers those issues for the Washington Examiner, congressional correspondent, in studio with us this morning. Tim, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in with our regular team here this morning. You, one of the few people, I think, who noted, I wouldn't know except from you, that yesterday was the 12th anniversary of the war in Afghanistan. Is this the longest American war?
Well, you could argue that the Vietnam War was longer, depending on different metrics of intervention. But yeah, I mean, in terms of boots on the ground and trying to build a country from virtually nothing with no institutions, when we look at the toll of the war, it's not as much as the Vietnam War, but the times have changed. 2,000 people, 2,000 Americans dead is quite a toll. When we're looking at it through 21st century lens.
And this is, so we're into year 13 of the war in Afghanistan.
We're just beginning.
Which is still supposed to end the middle of next year?
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Here's the galling part about it. Afghan President Hamid Karzai yesterday gave an interview with the BBC saying, you know, if the Americans have basically failed to achieve their security objective after 12 years here, if we can't reach a deal with them for kind of post-war troop presence, you know, they can take off. It's not a big deal. They haven't really done their job here over the last decade and a half or so. They haven't really given us enough.
That's the thanks we get from Karzai, right?
Well, Karzai's always been saying things like this that rile people up. I mean, he's over the years proven himself.
But it does raise a question about why the hell were we there all this long, and what did we achieve? What did we achieve from this war in Afghanistan?
It's really hard to say. I mean, you could say for sure. Well, here's what you could say for sure. Afghanistan is a safer place with NATO troops than it was before.
Some parts of Afghanistan.
Sure.
Right.
But if you're a woman in Afghanistan, if you're a student in Afghanistan, if you want to go around without a niqab, if you're a female, a teenager who wants to learn how to read, it's safer in Afghanistan now than it was a decade and a half ago, and the country is no longer a safe haven for terrorists. On the other hand, huge instability, huge instability, particularly among the Afghan-Pakistan border, and no end to the threat of terrorist organizing in the broader region.
Right. And some of them coming into Pakistan through that porous border that you've talked about. Now, related to that, over the weekend, there were they insist, coincidentally, 2 military operations, one in Libya and one in Somalia, one successful in Libya, one not as successful, which is unusual for the Navy SEALs not to get their man, right, in Somalia. What is this all about, number one? Number two, I heard at our briefing yesterday at the White House, Jay Carney said, well, these were carried out under the, what is that called? The resolution use of terror or use of
military force.
Use of military force, authorization of military force, right after September 11.
Mm-hmm.
So the Obama administration is still evoking and following this George Bush doctrine from 2001.
Well, the authorization of the use of military force, the president has said, I want you to narrow that. Even as President Obama is using it to conduct military strikes around the world. But it all relates to his general doctrine of using small footprints on the ground, small number of targets, targeted strikes, and that sort of thing. I mean, I actually, last week in D.C., there was the premiere of Captain Phillips, that new movie with Tom Hanks. In which the Navy SEALs rescue a boat captain who was captured by pirates, off the Horn of Africa. That kind of plays into this whole narrative of the Navy SEALs will save the day. And increasingly, we're not just looking at Navy SEALs, we're looking at all sorts of special ops and special forces around the world conducting these operations. Targeted operations, looking for 1 or 2 smaller objectives and avoiding the need for American invasions.
So this is the new look of the military?
I think particularly at a time when budgets are being cut, and you're looking at the Marines reducing their force strengths and the Army reducing their force strengths, you're seeing special ops have this new expanded role. They can do things that forces 10 times their size can't do.
Yeah, they can do it using this authority, right? I guess the belief is that these operations are okay or kosher anywhere in the world at any time, for any reason that we feel necessary.
For the purpose of fighting terrorism.
For the
purpose of disrupting terrorism, particularly as
so
it
we're going
relates
to see
Al-Qaeda.
more of these, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and right up till now, we've seen very low casualty counts. I mean, we haven't seen a Navy SEAL be killed in combat in the operations I've discussed. That is Osama bin Laden, or these 2 raids we saw over the weekend, or off the coast of Africa. We have seen Navy SEALs die in combat. But in these kinds of operations, the ones that we know of, largely they've been able to keep, injuries and casualties to a bare minimum.
Right. In fact, in Somalia, they went in. They met gunfire. They returned gunfire. Then they hopped in their boats and they went back to the mothership. And none of them were injured or not in the line of duty.
Right,
so,
and that's a big contrast to what happened in Mogadishu during the Black Hawk Down incident.
Now, you said that we're going to see more operations, particularly because of time of limited budget. If the Pentagon is now operating still, first of all, is still operating under the sequester, right?
Right.
We kind of forget about the sequester, right? Before the shutdown, there was, and there still is, the sequester. Has that really impacted Pentagon operations?
I think it has, and I think it has in a way that is not immediately noticeable. I think when, for example, one thing that the Pentagon did was it stopped the deployment of an aircraft carrier to the Persian Gulf.
Right.
At a time of instability in that region. We don't know what Iran's going to do with nuclear weapons. We don't know how, it's particularly with what's happening in Syria. It was a risky move, and it was meant to send a signal. The Pentagon is hurting. These Pentagon civilian employees who were furloughed recently because of the government shutdown, they've already been furloughed 6 times over the summer. They're already they've been hurting.
Furloughed under the sequester?
Yes. Under sequestration, they were furloughed 6 times over the summer. And then they were furloughed again due to this government shutdown and brought back. So they've been going through a roller. Just imagine working in the Pentagon right now and not knowing if your paycheck is going to be a full paycheck or a furloughed paycheck, if you're going to have work tomorrow. And these are smart, talented people who could probably get a job in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them are looking for the exits because why not?
Yeah, right. So now that they're back, are they all back, or what's the current status? My
They're
understanding
almost all back. I mean, it's technical, and you could.
But how could the Secretary of Defense do that? I mean, the government is shut down, and there was no bill passed that said carved out an exemption for the Defense Department. So how was he able to do that?
Well, one thing this is all very technical, and they were awaiting legal briefs from the White House and trying to figure out how to properly define which are essential workers and which are non-essential workers, and that is really up to the administration to execute a strategy. And so they brought back everyone who was related to supporting the ongoing combat mission in Afghanistan. And that applies to a lot of people who work in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And so they're able to apply that standard.
Now, but don't they, in fact, doesn't the administration, by doing so, or Chuck Hagel by doing so, doesn't he, in fact, kind of contradict the administration's message, which is we're not going to do this, we're not going to refund the government or reopen the government piecemeal. You got to reopen the whole government. You know, that's why they said this bill that the House Republicans want to pass to, okay, we'll give money to FEMA, or we'll reopen the monuments on the National Mall or the national parks or NIH or whatever. We're not going to do that piecemeal. But the Defense Department is doing it piecemeal.
Well, there's no strict definition. There is of what is essential and what is non-essential. I mean, you have some discretion as to how to apply that standard, and that applies throughout government. I mean, and you're able to say this passes the common sense test for what is essential to maintaining public safety or the continuance of government.
Yeah. Yeah.
That changes.
I know. I find it hard to meet that test myself. I find it hard to make the argument that every single person who works at the Pentagon is essential.
I don't think every single person at the Pentagon meets that test of essential, but they're getting there. I mean, in terms of massaging that definition.
All right. Well, we're talking defense issues and other related shutdown and sequester. We didn't even get to the default yet with Tim Mack here, congressional correspondent with the Washington Examiner. You've had a lot to say this morning on how the government shutdown is impacting you and your family. Tell us about it at 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes now before the top of the hour. In the next hour, Olivier Knox from Yahoo News. A buddy of mine from the White House briefing room will be here as a friend of Bill for the hour, and we'll be joined by Congressman Chris Van Hollen from Montgomery County, and number 4 top-ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives and the ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, and get his take on any way out of the shutdown and any way to avoid the default. What is the feeling about the debt ceiling around the Pentagon? Do they expect, I mean, on top of the sequester, on top of the shutdown, do they expect, the third blow to be refusal to raise the debt ceiling?
I don't even know if they've gotten to that point where they're
they
thinking,
better be ready be thinking about it.
I don't think it affects them in any particular way that it wouldn't affect any other agency. That is the total collapse of the U.S. economy and the world economy around them.
Yeah, hello, right.
But it's so catastrophic. I wonder if they've really considered it. And it's, unlike people at the White House or at Treasury, it's really not their job to. So I haven't heard as much from the Pentagon on this issue, but it's going to affect them as it affects all of us.
In terms of things being shut down, have we shut down our drone program?
No, I'm pretty sure that's considered essential. I mean, that's military operations.
Yeah, and this the aid back to the raid for just a second in Libya. This is maybe the most dramatic display of rendition that we've seen, isn't it?
Well, it poses a big political problem, actually, for the president.
Yeah.
He has to figure out, well, where am I going to keep these guys, or this guy?
This guy.
How are we going to try this person? How are we going to interrogate him and make sure that we get the maximum amount of intel before we bring him to court? And that's the real problem that we're seeing on the Hill. Republicans are saying, if you don't hold him long enough, if you don't interrogate him long enough and extract every piece of information from him, and you just rush him to a trial, that's going to be a political problem for the president. Republicans are going to make hay out of this issue. Right.
Everybody is reporting that he is being held on this, I forget the name of the ship, in the Mediterranean and being interrogated there, and a special team of CIA people have gone down and they're grilling him and getting as much information, as you point out, as they can before they take him to New York for trial. Yesterday, at the White House, they would not even admit that he's on that ship. They just said he's been arrested and he's in custody.
Sure. I mean, that's operational security. They don't want people to know where he is for the time being.
But again, this is another case where the Obama administration, in terms of rendition, is continuing the policies of the George W. Bush administration right down the line. correct?
Well, I think from their perspective, they're saying, well, what could we have done here? We could have either sent a drone to circle above the building and sent a Hellfire missile down and just blown the whole place to smithereens, or we could have gone in with a targeted strike, extracted the guy that we're looking for, and taken him.
Now, I'm curious. So Congressman Chris Van Hollen from Maryland is coming here in the studio in the next segment. You've written recently about another former congressman from Maryland.
Yeah, Roscoe Bartlett. He's a former congressman from Maryland, 10-term congressman.
Served 20 years.
20 years in the House. He was always known as a bit of an odd character when he was there. And now he's living in the wilderness of West Virginia, just out there. We wrote
like in a yurt or
no. We're talking isolated.
Yurt, yeah.
We're talking isolated. Central West Virginia. He doesn't have an address. You cannot reach his house by paved road.
He lives in a house.
Well, his log cabin. You cannot reach his log cabin.
Oh my God!
It is just way out there. So we wrote a story, a feature story at the Washington Examiner.
How did you find out about this?
Well, I was in touch with a former aide of his, and it's kind of known on the Hill. People who have worked with him in the past kind of know that he lives out there. And so I got in touch with his former chief of staff, and they directed me towards him. And I got directions to drive up, and one of them, they start off normally. You go on Route 80, you switch to 61, then you go to the top of the nearest mountain and take a right. That was literally on the direction.
Hang a left at the one-eyed cow, and...
And so you go, there's a gravel road, and you go up there, and he's got 153 acres up there in the middle of nowhere. And it is pristine. It is beautiful.
To go from Congress to that is like a culture shock.
Does he have electricity?
He has electricity only because he has solar power. He's set up solar panels up there. He's off the grid. He doesn't have a phone line.
What's he doing?
He's hanging out. He's building his cabin. This guy, he's 87 years old, okay? He's walking around faster than I can keep up with him. He's digging holes with his shovel. He's hauling stuff on his truck. He's got these 1-ton batteries that he's hauling around. He's a vibrant, youthful guy for 87.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's
but
cool.
he's up there. He's got his own garden. He's self-sustaining. He's one of these conservatives. He's a Republican. He's one of these conservatives who believes that in order to be self-reliant and not dependent on government, you really actually have to be out there, living in the wilderness, not relying on government one bit, not for your utilities, not for electricity, not for anything else.
Well, this is what these Tea Party people ought to do. Yeah, let them go out there in the wilderness with Roscoe Bartlett and get the hell out of Washington. We'd all be better off.
I think there's something attractive about the notion of getting out of here.
Yeah, totally. I think it's awesome.
Well, you're out of here right now because we're out of time. Tim, great to see you. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you for your good reporting and coming in today. Again, Olivier Knox coming up as a friend of Bill in the next hour.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. Almost 2 hours down, and a third hour coming up. An hour you're not going to want to miss. Sorry, we'll lose you on Free Speech TV. But remember, you can continue watching online on our video stream at youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKRTV. Because in the next hour, Olivier Knox joins us from Yahoo News. The entire hour is a friend of Bill, and we'll be joined by the top Democrat on the House Budget Committee, Congressman Chris Van Hollen. Talker TV.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. you could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama not in Asia, still in town, and only 2 items on his schedule today. He and the Vice President get their daily briefing at 11 o'clock, and then at 4:30 they meet with Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel, whom we were just talking about. But today's schedule is like yesterday's, with a lot of blank spaces there. The president filled it yesterday by going out to FEMA and speaking to employees there. Don't be surprised if there's some unannounced event on his calendar today. We will have our daily press briefing with Jay Carney at 1:30. Olivier Knox joining us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
On a Tuesday, October 8th, and we are now day 8 into the shutdown with no end in sight until it runs right into the debt ceiling next week, and then God knows what's going to happen. We got it covered every which way, and glad to have you with us this morning to talk about the issues of the day and to sound off and tell us what it all means to you, to your family, and your community. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com. Don't forget, we're coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. And for those of you listening, might also like to, see what our guests look like. You can actually video stream the show at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV, and that way you'll find Olivier Knox from Yahoo News, White House correspondent, right here in studio with us. Hey, Olivier, nice to see you.
Good morning.
We hang out at the briefings together, usually fighting to get our questions in from the back of the room.
Right, it's getting worse, isn't it?
Yesterday was long time
Pretty
before.
grim.
Hey, you got a question in yesterday.
That's true.
I did, but
That's true.
Let me tell you, there were maybe. Somebody said the briefing lasted an hour and 6 minutes.
Actually, I can verify that because I pulled the audio this morning. It was an hour and 6 minutes, and your question was an hour and 4 minutes and 30 seconds in.
Okay, and so I would say out of an hour and 6, an hour was spent in the front of the room yesterday.
Yeah, it was a series of small interviews between Jay Carney and the front row of the briefing room, followed by sporadic questioning from the other rows.
Yeah, a series of interviews where the reporters the only time he moved on was when the reporter ran out of questions.
Yeah, we're getting to a point. I think there may be some calling out of questions from the back, and I think I may be just the guy to do it. It's getting ridiculous in there.
It is, and at some point, what the press secretary would be perfectly, and once in a while Gibbs would do this, not that often enough. The press secretary would be perfectly within his rights to say, "I'm sorry, I'm going to move on. I'm sorry, you've already had 3 questions. I'm going to move on." Right.
And just to make a quick point about the value of the White House briefing, because I'm a big defender of the White House briefing, there is an enormous value to asking a public televised question of the press secretary.
Yes.
It makes it a lot harder for them not to answer. There's always a dynamic in which press secretaries want to give you a reply when an answer is called for. But doing that in the briefing room has such great value that that's why we complain. That's why the backbenchers like me complain about this, because it's very hard for them to squirm and get out of something.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of sense a revolt building right here and now. You can point to this show as when it started.
Well, it didn't start here, but it's continuing here, and you haven't heard the end of it. Let's put it that way. Peter Ogburn and Dan Henning here, the leaders of our team here this morning, with Alicia Cruz on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam. Thanks to you all. Olivier, you probably were as excited as I was yesterday. It was the first night, the opening night of the new lineup on Fox News, with Greta Van Susteren at 7 and Bill O'Reilly still at 8. And now Megyn Kelly at 10 with Sean Hannity. I'm at 9, rather, with Sean Hannity at 10. And the Megyn Kelly show is a whole news show in prime time. And her first guest last night, Senator Ted Cruz.
Nice get.
Yeah, nice get. Here it is.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz is a Republican and our guest tonight. Senator, good to see you. What's it like to be the most hated man in America?
Well, Megan, it's great to be with you, and let me start by just saying congratulations on your new show. Fox News is lucky to have you, and I am honored to have the chance to join you on your very first show.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now.
All right, so what? Now answer the question.
I love that.
Look, I think there have been more than a few Democrats who are throwing rocks my direction, and to quote the Bard, methinks she doth protest too much. They are throwing every insult they can. But the reality is most Americans don't care about politicians bickering. They're looking for people to solve the problems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could do lots of quotes of the Bard about...
Methinks she doth protest too much.
God, that is so hurt. That's just cringy.
You know what I find funny about that? It's not the Democrats who have said he's the most hated man in the Senate. It's his fellow Republicans.
That's right. We can laugh about the Shakespeare reference to Hamlet, but I think the more important dynamic is that actually he's really not popular among Republicans. I was talking to a senior Republican conservative guy. Actually, a group of us were, and somebody said, "So, what do you make of Ted Cruz?" And the answer came down first was, "Well, he's a gifted communicator." But then finally he said, "But let's be honest, this is not someone who played a lot of team sports as a kid."
Indeed. Olivia Knox here with us as a friend of Bill this hour. We will be joined by Congressman Chris Van Hollen from the state of Maryland, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, right in the middle of all the budget battles in the House. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Other headlines making news on this Tuesday. A group of right-wing truck drivers has plans to try and tie up the D.C. Beltway this Friday. Right. USA Today reporting they're calling it the Truckers' Ride for the Constitution to protest President Obama, fuel prices, and EPA trucking regulations. They say they plan to have 3,000 trucks to purposely tie up traffic on the big interstate that surrounds our nation's capital and only let cars pass them if they display the trucker's calling card, which is T2SDA, stands for Truckers to Shut Down America.
Oh, this is a way to make friends, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Come up here and shut down the Beltway.
As the White House could tell you, shutting down the Beltway when it's just not a popular maneuver.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, let's
really
make friends. We'll just clog traffic, although stay home.
Easy headline, what the truck.
Yeah.
A new Pew Research Center study points out the obvious that the media is already talking about the 2016 presidential race, and they're talking about it a lot. The upcoming contest has received more media coverage so far this year than in either the 2012 or the 2008 campaigns got during comparable time frames, especially in newspapers. The coverage has been double over the 2012 coverage so far. The people getting the most write-ups, number one is Hillary Clinton, followed by Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and Chris Christie.
And Ted Cruz.
Not in the top 4.
Oh, now he is. I don't know when that survey was taken.
Yeah. I thought that we were collectively doing better. It seemed
That's
like
because
this time,
we have a rule on the Bill Press show that we will not talk about.
Maybe I live in the Bill Press
2016.
bubble that we haven't talked about it that much. That might be it.
And in Hollywood Esquire magazine, naming its 2013 Sexiest Woman Alive, it's actress Scarlett Johansson. Who did you say?
I was going to say Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
more campaign coverage, Bill.
Now that's a Bill Press bubble.
The
Scarlett Johansson's a good choice.
Absolutely, by the way.
And this is the second time that she has got it, by the way. Only person to ever get the nod twice. She got it 7 years ago, the first time, just after the movie Lost in Translation came out.
All right.
Yeah, I'd vote for her.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Halle Berry, maybe, too. Right
Yeah. She's still up there. I mean, number one is my wife, obviously.
Okay, show yourself out.
Pandering.
Yeah.
Olivia, yesterday in this briefing we were complaining about, most of the questions, until we got to the Redskins question, every question, I think, was about shutdown. How's it playing out for the administration? In the Washington Post poll this morning, 70% of Americans say they think the shutdown's a mistake and the government ought to be reopened.
Right. There's not a lot to cheer for either party or the White House, but definitely House Republicans are getting the brunt of American anger here. It's not to say that anyone's cheering for this. At the White House, they're feeling fairly confident. They've banned the word winning from their comments about the shutdown after that really unfortunate comment from a senior administration official anonymously. But they feel pretty confident that they have the right argument and that and they point to, and this is actually really important, they point to the unusual Senate Democratic unity. A lot of the time we joke that Senate Democrats are chiefly united when they form a circular firing squad. In this case, though, they've held together remarkably, and that's had a huge impact. Actually, I want to ask Chris Van Hollen about this because the White House folks say that it's had a big impact on the overall debate, and they credit Harry Reid with keeping his troops in line.
So what we've heard ad nauseum, right, from Jay Carney and from the president too, is several points. One is we're willing to negotiate anything, but you have to reopen the government first, right? And we will not, no matter what agency you're talking about, we will not do this piecemeal. You got to do it like all at once. Now those seem to be they've dug in their heels. They've held the line. They refuse to budge from that. Is that the correct strategy? Is it working?
Well, I mean, in terms of
and can they hold there? I guess
they certainly. That's the better question. I think in terms of the correct strategy, we don't. If you're currently a furloughed employee, putting your household expenses on a credit card, or worse, if you're an American who relies on some of the services that are being pared back, frozen, rolled back, you probably aren't in a mood to hear about successful strategies inside the Beltway.
Good point.
But what was really striking about yesterday's briefing, I think, was that they have that strategy, right, that you described, which I would call, sort of like the meatloaf strategy. It's I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Well, that's what we were hearing from the White House. Like, of course we would negotiate, just not on this, and not now, and not this way, and not with these people, and not. But what was really striking about the briefing yesterday was some of the doors that they cracked open. Would they be willing to do a really short-term debt ceiling increase?
And the answer was?
The answer was yes,
right? It was not a direct yes, but it was not a no.
Would they agree to some parliamentary gimmickry in Congress so that they wouldn't negotiate directly on the debt limit or on the short-term spending measure, but they might attach a parallel measure on something else? Yes, right?
Yeah.
So they cracked open a bunch of doors. We appear to be moving into a phase where you see a lot more proposals coming out. And it sounded to me like they were trying to find a face-saving escape for Republican House Speaker John Boehner, who's really the one now in the most trouble.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that Boehner is in a little trouble this week is for something he said on the Sunday shows, or on this week, Sunday, where he insists the votes, he would have a vote. He didn't say that, but he insists that the votes are not there on the House floor to pass a clean budget resolution, which, of course, Democrats want and the White House wants. This was President Obama yesterday when he went off campus to FEMA, his challenge back to John Boehner.
The truth of the matter is there are enough Republican and Democratic votes in the House of Representatives right now to end the shutdown immediately with no partisan strings attached. The House should hold that vote today. If Republicans and Speaker Boehner are saying there are not enough votes, then they should prove it. Let the bill go to the floor and let's see what happens.
Hold the vote. Hold the vote. Find out who's right. Find out who's wrong.
Right, and independent news organizations have been doing a sort of an informal whip vote count tally kind of thing, and it looks at least close. A couple of Republicans have tried to roll back their public comments about favoring a vote on a clean spending stopgap, but it looks at least close. I don't think that Democratic Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid wants hold the vote, prove the votes aren't there as a standard, though. I think that a lot of the time the leaders of both chambers don't bring things up because they don't want to bring them up, not because the votes aren't there. So I don't know. I don't know that D.C. This is probably not a standard that either House Democrats or Senate Democrats are particularly thrilled about. But in this current instance, it certainly seems to work. Yeah, the count does vary a little bit. CNN was reporting yesterday there were 14 Republicans. CBS last night said 17. Huffington Post yesterday was reporting 22. And Jennifer Benry, whom we know from the White House, she had almost every one of them quoted. Now, some of them may be rolling back. Plus, there are some privately who, if there were a vote, would probably vote for it. Right. We don't know what that sort of silent caucus. We don't know the size of it. You know. But we should be careful because the people in our profession were talking about this revolt of the moderates, the Republican moderates, who supposedly were going to be they were finally going to assert themselves. They were finally going to force a vote on this stuff, and that just melted away completely. So we should be careful about these kinds of tallies because the only time that really matters is when you're pressing that button to vote in the House chamber. So careful.
Yes, and of course that all fell apart because I will add, you don't have to say anything about it. It was led by Peter King from New York, whom we know, I believe, is more bluster than delivery.
Certainly not a vote counter. Right? I mean, I don't mean that in a mean way. I don't mean that in a mean way. Just, manifestly at the end of the day, the votes weren't there.
Yeah. We are going to continue here with Olivier Knox and then Chris Van Hollen joining us a little bit later. The phrase at the briefing yesterday was "without drama or delay,"
which doesn't mean anything.
No. We'll talk about the debt ceiling and the White House response to that when we come back.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Tuesday, October 8th. In studio with us, Olivier Knox is the chief Washington correspondent, if you please, for Yahoo News. We hang out at the briefings together every day, and we will be joined by Congressman Chris Van Hollen from Maryland in the next segment. Olivier, before we get back, Peter's got another quick
while we enjoy talking to Congressman Van Hollen, we should maybe think about having Michelle Bachmann on the show, because she went on a radio show yesterday or over the weekend with Jan Markell as a Christian radio program called Understanding the Times, and I'm just going to read to you what Michelle Bachmann said. The United States is willingly, knowingly, intentionally sending arms to terrorists. Now, what this says to me is, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. As I look to the end time scripture, this says to me that the leaf is on the fig tree, and we are to understand the signs of the times, which is your ministry. We are to understand where we are in God's end time history. That's a quote from what Michelle Bachmann had to say on a radio show. In other words, we are in the end times, according to Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
well, the good news is we are in the end times of her time in Congress.
That is true. Yes, maybe that's what she meant.
Maybe that's what I don't know.
There's a thriving.
Did you cover her at all on the road?
I did, and I have to tell you this about Michelle Bachmann. I've never seen a politician, a candidate, work a room better than Michelle Bachmann did in Iowa.
Yeah.
I saw her. I followed her to a couple of these.
There's clearly some appeal.
Didn't she win the straw poll?
She did. No, but she did pretty well. But the thing is, like, she really. I mean, seriously, there are basically three different Michelle Bachmanns. One of them is the one who appears on those programs and offers that kind of message up. The other is sort of the canned speech Michelle Bachmann. But my goodness, the on the stump campaigning Michelle Bachmann is a force to be reckoned with. I saw her at the World War II Memorial last week when I went down there to see the veterans get access. No one works a room. No one works supporters like that. She instantly builds rapport. That people used to say about Bill Clinton that he makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. Even though it's 100 other people who paid whatever it was to get into that reception.
Yeah.
She's so good on the stump. It's really easy to imagine that after meeting her and talking to her at one of these events, you'd want to walk away and be like, oh, that's Michelle Obama.
And nobody makes love to a TV camera like she does either. You know?
Well, there were, that's interesting. I don't know that I would be able to rank the top 5 lawmakers on that, though I do think at the World War II Memorial, I was very thoughtful of those lawmakers to protect the veterans by getting between them and the TV camera.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Very thoughtful.
Doing a public service there, right? Yeah. All right. Olivia Knox stays with us, and we'll be joined by Congressman Chris Van Hollen, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee. Coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I will.
streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
You've got 33 minutes in, after the hour. Isn't that the way everybody spells Talker? TAWKR TV. That's how we spell it at any rate. Good to have you with us on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast, and on Talker TV. Olivier Knox has been here and is still here as a friend of Bill this entire hour. He's the Washington correspondent, chief Washington correspondent for Yahoo News. We are now joined in studio by the ranking Democrat on the Budget Committee in the House of Representatives, Congressman Chris Van Hollen from New York, right in the middle of this whole shutdown debate, and which is now moving into the debate over the debt ceiling. Congressman, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
Not fun times.
No, it's not fun times at all. It's a reckless moment in American history, and I hope that people come to their senses.
We are day 8. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Or?
I have to say I don't, and it's because Speaker Boehner continues to, in one case, hold the entire government hostage until he tries to extract concessions on defunding Obamacare in one way or another. And it looks like they're going to carry that same kind of argument to the debt ceiling. In other words, they're going to demand things in exchange for agreeing to pay our country's bills on time, which is a responsibility of every member of Congress, Republican or Democrat.
Two things that the Speaker says I'd like to respond to. One, he says and insists, as he did Sunday, that the votes are not there on the floor of the House of Representatives to pass a clean CR. True or not?
It's not true. I found that an astounding comment because we know from people who have already publicly declared where they are that the votes are there. Moreover, there's a very simple way to find this out. Hold a vote. I mean, I have said on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, why are you afraid of a little democracy in the House? So what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is he's proven right, but I'm confident he will be proven wrong. I mean, the Republicans have showed themselves totally unable to count votes. They thought they had the votes on the ag bill, and they didn't have them. In this case, the votes are there. And again, it doesn't do any harm to hold a vote, other than the fact that it would mean that Boehner does have to open the government, the whole thing, today, and this whole thing will have been shown to be the farce that it is.
Because you're convinced it would pass.
Absolutely.
So
Jump in here, Olivier, anytime.
I feel like we're in a phase of this process where now people are throwing options at the wall to see what sticks. And the White House yesterday opened the door to a short-term debt ceiling increase. They talked about, they floated essentially doing away with the debt limit altogether, by saying that the president would never again negotiate on this front. Are House Democrats prepared to back either a short-term debt limit increase or doing away with the debt ceiling altogether?
Well, the short-term increase in the debt ceiling, as the White House indicated, is not the preference, right? I mean, they made it clear that you want to try and eliminate this unnecessary uncertainty in the economy. And the way you do that is to extend the debt ceiling for a longer period of time. But if the choice were between a total meltdown and default or a short-term extension of the debt ceiling, yes, we would support a short-term extension of the debt ceiling. But again, the answer here is to have a vote and extend the debt ceiling for a longer period of time. And, I have to pose this hypothetical. What if the president were to say, you know what, Republicans, I'm going to veto an increase to the debt ceiling. I'm going to block an increase in the debt ceiling unless you adopt my budget, unless you adopt my jobs plan, and unless you adopt my long-term deficit reduction plan. They would say the guy had lost his mind. They would run him out of town. And yet that's exactly what Republicans are doing. Republicans are saying we will block an extension of the debt ceiling unless you give us our budget and you get rid of the Affordable Care Act. So if you just think about what would happen if the president took the position Republicans are doing, you realize just how absurd their position is here.
But House Republicans are also saying that the White House, the concession of sorts that the White House is asking of them is taking an extremely politically painful vote that could cost an awful lot of them their jobs. They're mostly worried not true. A lot of them are worried mostly about a primary challenge. So they're worried about someone running at them from the right. And they're saying, look, the White House wants us to walk the plank. Are there any? I mean, the White House has essentially ruled out concessions directly tied to the debt limit. But what about these other notions? The notions of a parallel parliamentary vehicle that could at least offer a symbolic concession to these guys, so that they can go home and say, "Yes, I voted for the debt limit increase, but I also got X."
Well, the issue is the fact that Republicans are using the full faith and credit of the United States as a bargaining chip. In other words, they say they're prepared to undermine that full faith and credit in order to get something, in order to enact their agenda. And what the president has said, rightly so, is that all of us share a responsibility to pay these debts. At the same time, the president has been clear since the beginning of the year that he would like to sit down with Republicans and negotiate on the budget. In fact, if you look back at the beginning of the year, Speaker Boehner is the one who said he didn't want to have any more conversations with the president. He wanted to go through the regular order. The regular order means that the House passes a budget and then the Senate passes a budget. Both houses passed budgets in March. We have been trying to go to budget negotiations since that time. In the House, Speaker Boehner has blocked the appointment of negotiators 3 times. I introduced the resolution calling on the Speaker to appoint budget negotiators. He has refused to take it up. In the Senate, Senator Reid and Patty Murray have been blocked 18 times by Republican senators, mostly the Tea Party senators, but others, from going to budget negotiations. So our point all along has been we should negotiate on the budget. What's that negotiation? You've got the Republican Ryan budget, and you've got the president's budget or the Senate Democratic budget. Those are really important negotiations to have. But the dialogue there is not between whether you pay our bills on time in exchange for adopting the Republican budget. It's between the Republican budget priorities and the president's budget priorities and the Senate Democratic budget priorities. Those are very different kinds of negotiations. We've been trying to have that for most of this year.
But Speaker Boehner did appoint, finally, you made that point you just made several times on the program here. He did finally last week appoint his members for his budget committee.
Well, it's a very important distinction here. What he was appointing negotiators to was to negotiate on the continuing resolution, because he wanted to negotiate he wanted to negotiate the health care provisions that the House had put in other words, rolling back Obamacare. In other words, very different issue. And I'm glad you raised that, because
so they had this photo op with all the Republicans on one side of the
that was
table.
to go to so-called conference on the continuing resolution. But here's the main point to keep in mind there. Speaker Boehner admitted on national television on Sunday that he had reached a compromise with Senator Reid on the spending bill and that he reneged on the deal. He admitted that on national television. He had a compromise deal. The deal was that the Senate Democrats and Democrats in general would agree to the lower funding level for the government. In other words, the sequester level for a 6-week period until November 15th or December 15th, whatever date you pick. In exchange, the Speaker agreed not to attach all these unrelated extraneous provisions related to Obamacare. That was a negotiated compromise. And the Speaker on national television on ABC with George Stephanopoulos admitted that he then couldn't hold his own caucus. He went back to his caucus, and the Tea Party right said no. And as a result, he reneged on a deal. And people ask why, and then he says, pick up the phone, Mr. President. This guy, the Speaker, has not been able to deliver his caucus on anything. How do you negotiate with a guy like that? I mean, even in a normal negotiation, now they're trying to again use the full faith and credit of the United States as a bargaining chip. That's not going to happen under any circumstances.
I was actually going to ask you, how do you negotiate with them? I mean, that's kind of the job at hand, right? So how does this end?
Well, this goes to the heart of the problem. I mean, the heart of the problem is that we have a Speaker of the House who cannot control his own caucus. I hear Republicans complaining that somehow, the president isn't able to persuade these guys. Their own speaker can't persuade these guys. These guys come from congressional districts where Mitt Romney won overwhelmingly. It's not the president's job to convince these guys to get, to come to their senses. And frankly, I don't think the speaker is ever going to convince these 40 members to come to their senses on these issues. But the job of the speaker is to exert some leadership. I mean, it's supposed to be the Republican leadership. And what he's doing now is instead of instead of governing for the good of the whole country, or even the entire Republican Party, he's allowing this faction, very reckless faction, to run the show to the detriment of everybody else. And that's irresponsible.
Congressman Chris Van Hollen in studio with us, with Olivier Knox from Yahoo News. The latest word, we heard a lot about this at the briefing yesterday, was we're going to, we're not going to entirely default. We're just going to partially default, and we'll do prioritization. That's what they're calling it. We'll get into that when we come back. Your questions, your comments, do you see a way out of it? Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
There are not the votes in the House to pass a clean CR.
This is the Bill Press Show.
There you go. Speaker Boehner is still claiming there are not enough votes in the House, as Congressman Chris Van Hollen, our guest, says. Well, let's find out. We could do that at 9 o'clock this morning. Find out once and for all. Have the government reopened by the end of the day. Olivier Knox is here, Chief Washington Correspondent for Yahoo News. Here's what my column in The Hill this morning, Congressman, Obamacare is here to stay. Here's one thing I have a hard time figuring, because I think it is, hard time figuring out. We got into the shutdown because Republicans said they wanted to either derail, defund, delay Obamacare. Now we're in the shutdown. Obamacare's still gone. It's not even affected. So if the shutdown has nothing to do with Obamacare, what is the shutdown all about?
Well, that's what we're all asking at this point. It remains among the Republicans, the Tea Party group, it remains about Obamacare, and they still want to defund the whole thing. In other words, if you were to actually withdraw all the funding source for it, then you would collapse it. But you're right, they have now missed the deadline, so to speak. It is in full force. And we should remember that even before October 1st, major parts of the Affordable Care Act were already in place, benefiting millions of people. So, look, I think, some people recognize that this is going to happen, back to life, but you still have the dead enders who are fighting this, losing cause.
Let me ask you about the Republican strategy, because a big part of that strategy over the past week has been to pass what we've all agreed to refer to as piecemeal funding measures. So, fund the National Institutes of Health, fund, say, FEMA, fund the Pentagon. Why not
National Zoo?
Sure. Why not ease the pain on the NIH? I mean, my wife's a scientist, but so I'm all on board with the importance of scientific research. But why not fund these agencies one by one and ease the pain on the economy and on those workers?
Well, because this is it's a ruse for this reason. If you really want to make sure you get federal government agencies up and running, you hold the vote that we've been talking about. You ask the Speaker to get this done, open all these federal agencies. It's especially, the folly of the Republican position here is especially highlighted by the important vote we took on Saturday, which was to say we're going to make sure that federal employees do not unfairly bear the brunt of this. They are the victims, the innocent victims of the shutdown. So we voted unanimously in the House of Representatives to ensure that everybody gets back pay. Everybody, not just the federal employees at NIH, not just the federal employees at the national parks. So the Republican position is we want to pay everybody now, but we're only going to send a few people back to work. Where is the sense in that? In other words, they already made the statement that everybody should be paid, and now they're preventing people who were going to pay from going back to work. So they totally undercut their entire argument. If they want to say, oh, we're only going to pay the folks at NIH, so we're going to pass an NIH bill, that would be it would be a bad thing to do. But they just totally undermine their whole argument, because now they've taken the position we're going to pay everybody, but we're only going to let a few people go back to work. That makes no sense.
But it's a ruse. I've heard this ruse point a couple different times, but I'm unclear as to what it's a ruse to do. Is there what's the department that ends up left out in the cold? I assume that they're not willing to fund everything piecemeal. So what's the department?
Well, come on. It's pretty obvious what they want to do. If they will not fund the Department of Education, they will not fund the Environmental Protection Agency, and you know as well as I do, having heard their presidential candidates say you could just get rid of those departments, they would be happy to shut them down permanently. Once you end up funding piecemeal parts of the government, then they just sit back. They'd be happy to permanently shut down the rest of the government until they get their way on Obamacare. That's why this is a ruse, because it's just it's a total head fake in trying to pretend that they care about funding these things in government, when if they really did, we would have a vote today. We would pass it today. It would be opening the government immediately, and the president would sign it today. So this is just an effort to try and provide cover for themselves, because they know that people are not happy with the impact of some of the shutdown. But when I hear from folks at NIH, I also hear them say, well, look, I want the Department of Education to be open. It's important that my kids get a good education. So what they're really trying to do is open little parts of government and allow the rest to die on the vine. They don't care about the rest. They'll shut it down forever.
Let me jump in, Congressman, just with about a minute left. There are Republicans now who are, knowing we're getting close to the debt ceiling deadline, who are saying, yeah, fine, we will not raise the debt ceiling. We'll go into default. And that's not going to be as bad as people think. We survived the sequester. We've survived the shutdown. We'll be okay if we don't raise the debt ceiling. What would not raising the debt ceiling look like?
Well, all I can
What would it mean?
What I can report is what the director of the Congressional Budget Office said, and he is a nonpartisan, independent analyst. He said that any time the United States doesn't meet any of its obligations, it sends a shockwave through the credit markets. And so we've never been in this situation before, but the overwhelming consensus of economists is that we are in a very dangerous situation where interest rates would start to rise. In fact, there are reports that people are already demanding somewhat higher interest rates just by the threat of default here. Listen, it's this idea that you're going to, quote, pay our bondholders only. For example, you're going to pay the government of China, and you're going to pay on the bonds, and not pay all the contractors who have already performed work for the U.S. government. You're not going to pay our troops. You're not going to pay Social Security or any of the other obligations of the United States government. Will by itself undermine the creditworthiness of the United States. Look what happened last time. It was just the threat. Right? The threat that we wouldn't pay our obligations. So how can folks say if we actually didn't pay some of our obligations, it wouldn't matter, when simply the threat in August of 2011 not to pay some of our obligations had that impact?
All right. Well, Congressman, we know what's got to happen. We got to have that vote. So we're gonna. That's your job.
We want to vote. We want to vote, and Senator Reid is now going to have a vote on a clean debt ceiling in the United States Senate because we all share responsibility for paying our bills.
And we'll let you get back to work. Thank you so much, Congressman,
Good to be with
for coming in,
you.
as always. Olivier, great to see you. I'll see you a little bit later at the White House.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll get a question in today. And I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, almost out of time. I just want to do the math one more time. You need 217 votes to pass a bill in this House of Representatives. All 200 Democrats have said they would vote for a clean CR, and 22 Republicans are on record publicly as saying they would vote for it. That's 222 votes by my count, by anybody's count. 5 more than you need to pass a bill. John Boehner is a total jerk for not calling for a vote in the House of Representatives. And with that, see you back here again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.